I'm really proud that that's sort of the environment that I'm trying to create. Like, I want to create an environment that is accepting, kind, generous, loving, like.
It's been a while since we've done an intro together.
Yeah, you were missing on it. Oh, mate, I missed you on the last intro. I hate doing them on my own. It's a nightmare. It's not your fault. Not blaming.
Camping, wasn't
There's
it?
no blame.
Camping away.
Welcome back to the Birmingham Food Podcast, Breaking Bread. This is all about the food of Birmingham, not about camping.
No. Although my camping trip was good if anyone's interested.
Oh, I'm interested, Carl. I'm interested. How you been?
Yeah, good. Long time no see.
Feels like it, yeah.
Just yesterday. Today.
Feels like it. Lots gone on. Obviously, you've got the big thing. You've ate out a couple of times. Obviously, we stick most of it on Breaking Bread bite size now, but
yeah, it gets on the newsletter, a lot of it.
Yeah.
It always gets a quick mention now.
Yeah.
I was very lucky the relationship invited us up to go and try Crazy Pedro's in Manchester. Well, it's both Crazy Pedro's in Manchester. It's obviously it's opening in the 6th of June, I think.
In Digbeth. It's in the custard
16th,
factory, isn't it?
16th of June.
2 stories or 3?
I think it adds up to 4 because I think one of them's a split level. So it's where the medicine bar used to be. You know, it's pizzas, it's pizza by the slice, it's frozen margaritas, mezcal margaritas, beers. Open till, I think they said 3 or 4 a.m. every single day.
What, even like Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah, every day. Oh, when he told me, when we were up in Manchester, he was like, we're up till 4 every day. I said the same thing. What, Sunday? Yeah. Monday? Yeah. Tuesday? I went for every day. It's like every day.
Imagine that. You just go out and stay till 4 o'clock eating pizza and drinking margaritas and like on
they're
Tuesday.
They're like really hospitality driven. So if you're in the hospitality, if you take your payslip with you or if you get one of the key rings that they give out to people, you get crazy offers. And that's not just on an industry night or an industry day once a month. It's all the time. Whenever it's open, you get a discount if you're in the industry.
It's a great idea, you know. So many times I used to have Tuesday and Wednesday as my day off, or Wednesday as my day off. So Tuesday you'd break up, and really for you, it was a Friday, and you were like, right, let's go. Where are we going? And you're like, oh great, I found a pub till 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. That's it. Now you've got somewhere you can go.
Well, I think the big vibe for them in staying open late is just it's a people finish and they've got somewhere to go. If it weren't for that, I don't think they'd stay open that late.
No, it's a cracking idea.
But when we were up there, it was a Wednesday night and we were there till about 2:30. And about 1:30, they were like, literally everyone in this bar now works in another bar that's shut and they've come here. It's where everyone goes when they finish working, basically.
And they're still serving pizza up until 3.
Up till 4, yeah.
4, yeah.
Whole pizzas, pizza by the slice. So you can go to the bar. I think like if you're industry, you can get a pint of beer and a slice of pizza for £5.
That's mental, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's so good. I love the idea of that though. Just nip up and grab a. You know, if you're like flogging a little bit, everyone's getting a bit ahead of you. You're getting a bit. Oh mate, I could just do with something just to tidy the gap. Slice of pizza.
Yeah,
perfect.
it does. Well, that's how I've got through so much booze. Just having a slice of pizza every now and then. And the cocktails, if you're on them, they come with sweets and they perk you up a bit. They keep you going. It's a very clever business model, to be honest.
Nah, it sounds
Keeps you
great.
drinking.
I think it's gonna go wicked in Digbeth as well. Like perfect for Digbeth.
You know what? I don't think it'd work anywhere else.
No, maybe not.
Like not for, especially like the young sort of vibe you've got there. So there's obviously the place in Digbeth. I mean, Digbeth's got everyone in it now. It's got every type of person. But it's like perfect place, like over the road from NQ64, which is one of my favourite places. I love it there.
Although it was a free trip, you still loved it anyway, didn't you?
Oh mate, it was wicked. It's a cracking place, really nice. The company that own it, they've got a few other bars in Manchester as well, and we tried them out, and they've got really good cocktail bars, and it's just a good indication of how cool Birmingham's got, that cool places that are opening up. I mean, the only other place other than Birmingham or London that I think is particularly cool is Manchester.
Yeah. Oh no, Liverpool's pretty good, man.
Yeah, Liverpool's good as well. But a lot of the places they're opening up in Manchester, they're looking at Birmingham now and going, hang on, Birmingham's cool as well, let's open up there.
So we better talk about today's guest.
Yeah, I suppose. That's why we're here.
Now this is like joking aside. We were saying before we started recording this intro that we did try quite hard to get this podcast on the go. We were real keen to talk to Sarah and Chloe from Verbena.
Yeah, it was one that's been on the burners for a while, to be honest, because and you, we both properly love Verbena as a restaurant. It's so good.
It's the only middle ground restaurant in Birmingham.
Sort of, yeah.
Selling like British, European, just quality food at an affordable price.
Yeah. You know, the restaurants that are on every fucking street corner in London
Yeah.
that Birmingham has literally zero of.
I can't remember how
there's
much
like
it was.
2 or 3 of them in town.
Like 3 courses, 32 quid or something like that. I can't remember how much
price.
it was, but
Again, research would have been good.
very, very simple.
Yeah, it's just simple food done really well. And I mean really well.
Yeah. And the desserts.
Yeah, the desserts are insane. It's alchemy what they do there.
I think there was already a group called Women in Hospitality, but I think they've kind of opened the Midlands branch of Women in Hospitality. I'm not too sure how that works, but we do talk about it in the podcast, and they're massive advocates for getting more women into the industry and supporting them. They run like networking events at Verbena. I think there's one coming up next week, I think.
Yeah, they're big on that, and rightly so as well. Unfortunately, it needs a push.
Yeah, it does.
It
Of
is an
course
area
it
that needs
does.
pushing.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it does, but it does.
And it's an all-female team down at Verbena, just absolutely smashing it. Like,
Well, I'd easily say Verbena in my top 3 restaurants in Birmingham.
yeah, I agree.
100%. It's my wife's favourite restaurant. She loves it there.
Yeah, just awesome story, and one that we're really happy to be able to share with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah and Chloe Verbena.
We will be in the restaurant cooking. That's what's coming up.
Good thing, that's all you got to do. That's
We're
brilliant.
very last minute with our organising.
We've
Are we
both
doing
been there.
anything
We
for
both
Easter?
absolutely love
Oh,
Verbena as a
thank
place.
you.
Good.
It's really
And your
fun.
desserts, they're crazy.
Very, very good.
We'll get to it, don't worry.
Stop thinking about it. Someone who lets you do what you want.
Chloe, let us redo the ordering.
Chloe doesn't look at how much I spend on Henley Bridge.
Cool.
Cool.
Chloe and Sarah, welcome to Breaking Bread. How are you guys getting on?
Good.
Good, yeah.
Good.
Good to
Good.
see you.
Hi.
Sunny day still today.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be cold tomorrow and then for the rest of the week.
Just started getting the garden sorted as well, so
And I just did the lawn.
yeah.
Got it all nice, and now I'm not going to be able to go in it again for ages.
This was like teased us with a bit of summer and then said, nah, you're not having that.
No, that's it now. That was summer. We've had it.
And the most boring, but one of the most exciting things, when you can put your washing outside.
You know what? That makes such a difference.
It's like the most, but you think it's going to be the most boring adult thing, and then it's
It
great.
is great. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, half an hour? It's fucking dry? How did that happen?
And it's fresh, and it's nice. We use electricity that costs £1 million.
Yeah.
And then there's like bees on it and shit. Or birds shit on it. Like, that does happen. I found that.
Yeah, that's
Doesn't
What, you
bother
get
us.
That's
bird
happened
shit
to
on
me
your laundry?
once before.
Never happened
Never
to me
happened.
before.
No, it's happened to her.
Wow.
Only
And-
once, though. That
Our
was
neighbours do have a beehive as well. So that
Oh.
doesn't help.
No, it really doesn't.
Do you ever get honey out of that? Do they give you honey?
Yeah, it's really good. Nice, isn't it? Well, I was thinking of growing lavender in my gardens. The bees have that, and then they end up with lavender honey. I don't know how happy they'd be about that situation, but
Be tasty though.
accidental
yeah,
lavender.
honey. Yeah, I've been all over
Yeah,
that.
they love purple, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I stayed at like a country house hotel in Wales by like the Brecon Beacons, and they took us round, and they've got like ducks and veg patch and stuff like that, and they've got 3 hives, and it was time where they bring in someone to come and see if the queen is still alive and if they're going to survive the next sort of season if they're survived hibernation and everything. And they was telling us about how each hive had got a completely different personality.
Yeah, they're mad.
So then there was one that made the best honey out of the three of them, but all of them were just super angry all the time. So they had to put like extra layers and stuff on every time they went to this specific one,
God.
and they had to keep it further away from the other two because they just get into fights all the time.
What, the bees got
The
into
bees,
fights?
and they were like, oh, but we don't care because the honey is so beautiful
Wow.
that we'll go through it.
I'm learning so much about bees right now.
Yeah,
I
West
never
Coast,
knew
East
that.
Coast bees.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when they swarm or you see them just go up
Yeah,
into the sky and
yeah.
it's like thousands in the sky, just like a big dark cloud above the garden. It's terrifying.
Wow.
You can hear it from inside the house.
Mm.
It's mental.
I made my way onto like bee TikTok. I don't know if you've ever been on there. It's so great. It's like this woman in America, and she talks about, she's like, and it's another great day of saving the bees, and like she like goes around and like looks after the swarms. That
Oh, is she the
don't
one that they call in for help? Oh
Yeah,
I've
because
seen
like
her.
you don't want your bees swarming. You want them to be safe in a hive, like making their like home somewhere safe. And she like goes around and is like scooping. She was like, and then I scoop the bees into their new container, all the while looking for the queen. And then she finds it. She's like, "There's the queen!" and like picks her up and like keeps her safe. She's like, and now you can see all these bees are like following their queen into their thing. And it's like one of those that's like the weirdest thing that, and it's like, why am I still watching it? But I can just watch video after video. I'm just like, oh my God, this is so great. And then it's another great day of saving the bees.
Jeez, sounds like Carol Baskin.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
She's got Carol Baskin vibes, but like not quite as catty. Bee.
We'll start at the beginning, like we
Cool.
always do. I'll start with Chloe. How did you get into hospitality?
God, how old was I? Like 14 when I first started. I worked in the kitchen of my dad's office and got trained by a really formidable woman who kind of taught me how to be clean and organised on my section, and kind of really inspired me to get into it, and worked in cafes after that, and then went to UCB. And then kind of just stuck with hospitality throughout.
Was the office in London or Birmingham?
London. Yeah, I'm from London originally. Moved to Birmingham when I was 18 for uni at UCB. I did culinary arts management, and then kind of went backwards and forwards for a few years, and then settled here like 4-5 years ago. And yeah, stayed ever since.
Do you like Birmingham then?
I love Birmingham. Yeah, I love it a lot. It reminds me a lot of like where I grew up in London, but
Which
it's
part's
just
that?
Pardon?
Which part of London?
It was southeast, so like Lewisham, Brockley area, and like I think Stirchley really reminds me of Brockley, but when I was a kid, if that makes sense, like Brockley now is like very expensive and gentrified, but Stirchley reminds me of it when it first started, and like there was loads of independence, and it was like really interesting, and the food scene was quite interesting. And now it's like it's still full of independence, but it's so expensive, like in Brockley. But that's what I kind of loved about Stirchley, was like how like fiercely independent it was, and I don't know, just a bit like how much it reminded me of home. And moving to this new city, I want a bit of home with me as well, and Stirchley seemed like the natural choice for that.
How did you hear about UCB in London? Is it like that famous? Is it?
So I kind of decided I wanted to be a chef, and then my school were very much like, you are academically gifted, you should go to university. And I was like, don't really want to, but okay. And then me and my mum looked into university courses, and we found 2 culinary arts courses, and one of them was University of West London, and the other one was University College Birmingham. And I was like, if I'm staying in London, I don't really want to be at uni. Like, I think it's a waste of money. So I was like, well, I want the experience of going somewhere else. So I just went off to UCB, and yeah.
Were your family very supportive about you going into chefing?
Yeah. My family have always been supportive of it. I've been quite lucky with that. My mum has been super supportive the whole time and never questioned it. Like, I think the only thing they ever questioned was when I dropped out of uni and came back to work at a cafe, and they were like, what is going on? But other than that, they've been super supportive and like just come to everything I've ever done, and have always been there. And I feel like pretty lucky to have that, because I know a lot of people don't have families that get it.
Yeah, especially if like a teacher was in the school are applying pressure academically.
Well,
like,
yeah.
It'd be a lot for the parents just to say, no, you're staying in school.
Yeah,
you're doing university."
exactly. Yeah, my mum was really great with that. She sort of, I think my teachers were very much like, you're only putting one university down, because I like wrote off West London. I was like, even if I get in, I'm not going. Like, there's no point even putting it down as a choice. And my teachers were like, you're only putting one university down? Like, don't you even want to do something else? And I was like, well, no, you only get to write one personal statement. It's pointless me going to any other university. So I need to write it tailored to UCB. And like, that's going to be a very different personal statement to like any other academic choice. So I was like, well, if I don't get in, I'm not going. That's that. Like, I'll just find a different path. I'll go to Lewisham College, which was like our local college, and they did kind of like a food course there. And I was like, well, I'll just do that then. But luckily got in with my very, very poor A-level grades.
What was it about being a chef that you like attracted you to it the most?
I think I'd always kind of loved food as like a young teenager and like as a child. And I remember my grandma, it's like so cliche, but my grandma always used to cook with us, and like she used to make like these amazing tarts, and she can't really do it now, like her hands have kind of gone, but like I just remember always doing it, and I always had like an interest in food, and I watched a lot of MasterChef and all the TV shows, and I was like, I want to do this, like this is what I want to do, like I'm so interested and I think it's gonna be great. I remember the very first few series of Great British Menu and thinking, yeah, I want to be just like Angela Hartnett. Like I was very much like, yeah, this is a really cool career path to go down. And I really enjoyed like, you know, at the end of Great British Menu when they're doing the feasts and like in the big tents, I was like, oh, I want to do that. And now I'm like, I can't think of anything worse. Like keep me in my 16 cover restaurant and don't take me anywhere else. But like at the time I was like, yeah, this seems really exciting. And like, I don't know, I just kind of looked into the university like career, and I was working in hospitality, and I was like, it just seems like what I want to do, and then just never really questioned it. I can't think of anything worse than working in an office. It's just not for me at all.
No, but shit. We're in the same boat.
We don't work in
The
office.
office is the last place I ever want to be.
I've never worked in an office. I've got friends who are like, you've never worked in an office? I was like, no, never.
I can't imagine working sitting down.
No, me neither. Like sat at a desk all day just like typing away.
Like I need to be doing something like with my hands.
Yeah. I mean, you see how much I struggle with like sitting at the laptop. Like I'll be at the laptop for like 10 minutes, then I'll be up and like off doing something, and then I'll sit back down for 10 minutes. It's like, that's why I get nothing done when I'm like having an admin day, because I'm like off and about, going to the shop, going for a walk, like chatting to Sarah in the kitchen. It's like, no, you need to be doing these emails. You need to be doing your VAT return. It's like, no, I don't want to do that.
We'll get something for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I did at college, I did work experience, and I had to go to an accountant's. I'd lasted a couple of hours, and I said, I've got to go out and get lunch, and then
Just went home.
Yeah, I was like, fuck this.
I did all my work
Could not be
experience in
arsed.
kitchens.
Well, I'm going to get fired from college. See you later. I'm not bothered.
Yeah. Like every time it was work experience, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go to a kitchen. My school were like, what are you doing? Like, surely you want to go and like, I don't know, do health and social care or some other stuff. And I was like, no, I want to go to a kitchen. Like, I want to be in hospitality. Like, we had this trip where we went to France, and everyone else kind of worked in shops, and I was like, no, I want to be in a restaurant or a hotel. And they put me in a hotel, and I had like the best time. And I was like, I'm so glad that like I was put in this hotel. Like, I just know that this is the career that I want, and like where I want to be and what I want to do. It's quite unusual to be like that, like from such a young age. Like I knew when I was like 14 that that's what I was going to do. I just love hospitality, and I love cooking, and I love serving people.
How about you, Sarah?
So I went off to university in Aberystwyth,
What did you study?
biology.
That's why her cakes are so good.
I did. So I did my A-levels, and I went to good sixth form, and thankfully it's not a waste of time, because I met like all my best friends at sixth form, and then at university. So I went away and loved the town, and I loved, you know, the people I met and stuff like that. But I went from being fully in love with biology to just hating it very, very quickly. And so I had a bit of a tough time at uni, like made friends for life and met my husband. So that's brilliant. Yeah, so I just kind of got into a funk, and I just really hated didn't want to go to my lectures. I didn't want to face like how much like I was hating, or like even what I would do if I wasn't there and stuff like that. And obviously, what will my family say if I just turn up and like, I don't want to be at university anymore. And it kind of got to the point where I had to choose what I was going to write for my dissertation, and I was like, I don't remotely like anything, let alone to dedicate. Like, I've known so many people who chose something to write about at the start of their dissertation that they quite liked, but by the end of it hated it. And I was like, well, if I hate it at the start, how am I going to get on? So, you know, we'd moved out into a house. I had people round for dinner like twice a week, and all I could see in my mind was like, what am I going to cook next? What? And I would sit there and I'd be like learning about ingredients, and I wanted to have, you know, it was like, okay, who's free on this day? I know this person doesn't have lectures on that afternoon, like, so they can come round. And like everything was like completely centered around food, basically. And it was like, okay, we're gonna have this theme night, we're gonna have this, or before we go out, or for my birthday, we're going to, you know, I'm gonna cook this. And it wasn't about going to restaurants and things like that, but it was all about like testing new ideas of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to cook, and, you know, and what I knew people enjoyed, and doing it, something like that. About that, I sort of kind of got to a point where I was like, I can't carry on doing this, like, I need to. So I drove home back to Stourbridge, and I turned up at my mom's front door at 10:30 at night when she was in her pajamas. She answered the door and was like, okay, why is my daughter here from Wales? And I basically just blurted out that I needed to leave university. And she was like, well, you know, you just do your exams. And I was like, I may have already dropped out. So I've already told the university. And
I told my mum the same way, by the way. I was literally like, Mum, I can't go back to university. And she was like, okay.
And that was only like, I didn't tell anyone until I got a plan of what I wanted to do. And it was that, I needed to cook for people, because that was like the only thing that I was enjoying. So, and it was kind of like, definitely like my safe space was like cooking for people. Like, I felt more comfortable, and stuff like that. And I just, you know, I'd have my head in like cookery books and textbooks and the internet and stuff like that about different things, and like learning about how eggs work and, you know, different sugars and stuff like that. And I originally didn't want to be a pastry chef, especially being a woman. Like, you know, I'd be more likely to be sort of pigeonholed there. So in like at the start of my career, I was very persistent in asking to be changed around different sections, because I also didn't want to miss out on the knowledge. Like, that's what it's always been about. Like, that's why I wanted to be in kitchens. Like, I love serving people, and because I love being good at something. That is what it's always like chasing. That is kind of like, it's never been about competition. I've always hated that. Like, I hated PE because people get too into it, and I'm like, guys, it's over in an hour. Like, come on. But like, it was always about, you know, and you move into different kitchens and you learn from different people. Yeah, like learning about the history of dishes or ingredients, or how, you know, especially like when the introduction of ingredients from their native places to where they are, and how far back that went, and why, you know, colonization or trading or things like that, and how that got included. So, and then obviously pre-refrigeration and stuff like that, why different spices and salts and things were used to preserve stuff. And yeah, I go down absolute rabbit holes, and then I'm like, I need to make this now. So I worked in a couple of places that were good, and then ended up moving to a place that was great, and then realised that actually I did really want to be a pastry chef, but by choice, not because I was stuck there. So yeah, and that kind of, once you get into a job like that, it's kind of ideal, because you get to completely nerd out.
I was going to say,
but on your own terms.
Is it just how technical and scientific pastry cooking is?
Yeah, I mean, with my background and stuff, it's like definitely, I would say I'm more curious than some people about the scientific background of how a cake or a pastry or a tart has worked, and how about different conditions or methods and stuff like that affect their final outcome. And that, I find that really exciting. You can change one thing and you're like, oh my god, it's so much better. Like,
I've got to say, I feel like Sarah knows the most about pectin than like I ever thought was possible. Like, I'll be like, I don't know why this isn't working. She's like, it's the pectin. Or like, you just know, like,
well, yeah, because
so
I found someone through Instagram, as all chefs do, that has a newsletter, Nicola Lamb, and she has like it's called Kitchen Project, and I think I'm not sure if she has her own like customer facing situation as well, but she puts out like a weekly or fortnightly newsletter, and there'll be a whole lot, you know, when you read those recipes and there's a whole like life history before you get to the. It's kind of like that, but actually great, because she'll go through the whole process, because she will have made 5 different versions of a recipe, and then we'll create a dish out of the final version. So she did one for puff pastry, and she did different numbers of folds and layers and temperatures of butter and hydration and the amount of water, and whether it was frozen at any point or chilled overnight or everything. And she did inverted and normal puff pastry, and then you cut into it and you could see all the layers and how everything affected, and like every week you get something landing in your inbox about that. And I found her because I was looking for pectin of all of things, because I was like, there's a million types to buy through suppliers, but there's one type in the supermarket. What is the one that is in the packet in the supermarket? And how does it convert to what I've got from Sosa and things like that? And it turns out there is like so much, like whether it depends on how it, some pectins need a certain amount of sugar to activate, some of them need an acid to help them set, and different temperatures and different like amounts. Some need overnight to set, some will set straight away, some can be used, 2 different pectins can be used for the same jam, but if you're doing a small batch then you can use quick setting. And then but if you're in a factory making jam, you clearly don't want to be setting in your drum that you're making it, because you'll never get into a jar. And it's a whole rabbit hole, and I loved it, and it was great, and it was like all of my answers about pectin had been answered. And then I was like, hey, I need to just read this every week, and hopefully I'll finally get through the whole culinary encyclopedia.
There you go.
And then I
Knows
can
the most
retire.
about pectin than anyone
We know
I've
to go
ever
to.
known.
Who's ever been said in this room. Yeah.
It was just like, I think I had a question once and I was like, oh, I don't know. And then
Was that because you hadn't added any lemon juice or citric to it?
was it the cheese I was trying to make?
Damson
Yeah,
cheese,
I was making damson cheese and I hadn't added anything to it, and I was like,
still pretty
cooked
soft.
it, and it's like, it's not setting, it's supposed to be like this solid texture, and I was like, what is going on? And Sarah went, what pectin have you used? And I was like, well, I didn't like damsons have like loads of pectin in the seed. And you were like, well, maybe it needs lemon juice to set. And I like added this lemon juice, and I was like, wow, you're a genius. You're a wizard.
So that's my massive nerd out done for the rest of the session.
Now there'll definitely be more.
Where did you start doing pastry?
So I worked with Andy Waters. I did work experience from UCB with him, and then I got offered a job, and he was opening his new place in Resorts World. So he was putting together his team from people he worked with, and because he had 2 places previously, sort of consolidated them but then added on more people. And he didn't have anyone for pastry, and he knows a few of the lecturers from UCB, and he said, they were like, oh, have you got anyone who's leaving? But it was the wrong time of year, like they'd already left and already got jobs. It was like in the summer holidays. And one of the guys who I'd just done a couple of functions with, one of the lecturers like suggested me, but was like, well, she's still studying, so she will only be able to do part-time. And so he like came over and was like, obviously you know that we're moving to Resorts World, like would you be interested? And I kind of like was waiting for a conversation because I didn't really know where my job was going. Like I was part-time and I was like living in Stourbridge, and I was like, well, if I'm only doing part-time, I don't really want to be driving over to Marston Green like twice a week for 4 hours. So then he was like, well, how, like, would you be interested in coming full-time, because it's really exciting, and put it out like the plan for the kitchen and the restaurant and stuff like that. It was difficult obviously because it like Resorts World was not open. Like it was an unknown thing, but I weighed up how much experience and how much I would learn from a year at college or a year in industry, because I was already 24. I kind of just was really eager to get started, so I took the job there, and then when it came to leave, I got a job somewhere else, and so I handed in my notice. But obviously for the majority of the time that I was there, I think I was there for like 2 years, I was running the section solo. So that was really difficult. That was one of the reasons that I wanted to leave, because, you know, you worry for your 2 days off. Like, what's going on? Have they run out of anything? What am I going to come into? Stuff like that. And because it was just me, I wasn't learning anything from anyone. Like had a great couple of chefs that I'd worked with over the time there that had, you know, got experience in great places, and they shared some knowledge, but I kind of felt like it was time to move on, and I got a job somewhere else, and handed my notice, and then Daryl from upstairs and Barrett. So
Upstairs in Resorts.
upstairs
by
in
the way.
What's not King's Heath
Not
or
King's Heath
Tom
or
Shepherd.
Tom Shepherd.
Don't get confused.
Take a pic of the
too many
upstairs.
upstairs.
Yeah, so he just sort of like, they were opening the new hotel restaurant, so suddenly he had no pastry chef, and they were going to be taking over the running of the pastry section in 5 months, 6 months time or something like that. And so Daryl came down and was like, so I've got a vacancy, would you like to come and like join my team? And I was like, until he was on MasterChef The Professionals, like I had no idea there was even a kitchen up there, like because of the new restaurant and everything like that, they like more people had become like friends and were chatting and stuff like that, but we were completely opposing shifts, so there was about an hour of crossover between the two kitchens. I had no idea up there. I didn't really think they'd be doing anything exciting, and I went up there and it turns out there was like a team of 8 pastry chefs to learn from. They were on Bake Off The Professionals doing incredible like chocolate showpieces with an insane amount of stress to go along with it, and the skills that they were learning like completely covered the whole breadth of the pastry genre. And I was like, this is amazing. And the place that I was going to like didn't have anyone to really learn from. It was a great kitchen, but I was kind of like, okay, well, how do I choose? So I had to make this whole like list and everything, but and they also work just daytimes as well, and that was amazing. I was like, what am I going to do with all these evenings? Like signed up to a pottery class, and had a pub night on a Thursday, and I was like, this is madness. So I was there until COVID lockdown, and then we got made redundant, sadly, but that was an incredible place to work, because as I said before, there was like Daryl and Barrett had like this amazing like pool of knowledge, and like Barrett's gone on to work with like Andreas and Simpsons and stuff like that, and he's got his whole like chocolate patisserie kitchen now. And like the people that I started at the similar sort of time, like they're working at the Grand doing incredible stuff, and it was an absolutely lovely place to work as well. Like it was balanced, like men and women. It was a really great place. Like it celebrated people's like skills, so people, it wasn't just being shouted at or told when you're doing something wrong, but it was also not natural, because the people who are like head chef, they'd obviously come up through hospitality, and the environments were not like that. It was a lot of like yelling and stuff like that, and so you could see that they made an effort to point out when you were doing well as well. And I thought that was just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and I kind of got made redundant, and then the seven of us all got made redundant. The whole kitchen got closed down. And Can
I just say, I think it's like such a tragedy that kitchen got closed down, because it's produced genuinely some of the best pastry chefs in Birmingham. Like,
I just think I'm sure
anywhere,
we know quite a few of them.
anywhere that you
Quite
go
some
to
obvious
now
ones.
that has a good pastry team will have probably learned in that kitchen, and it's like they shut it down. It's
I mean, it was obviously benefited from, we worked under like a massive international company, that it was a project for them, and it wasn't to make money. It was, I mean, sadly 2020 was the first year that we were on course to make our own individual profit that wasn't coming from a restaurant that we like gave our stuff to, so that was a shame, because we were finally sort of going to come to our own, and we were going to have maybe a customer facing place and do some classes and stuff as well, so that was a shame, but I kind of got made redundant, and I was like, well, who's going to be hiring, because everyone's getting made redundant or furloughed. And also, like, I don't want to go back to a kitchen that's really broy and laddie, and like,
Is that quite a common thing that you've both found?
yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Which bit, the broy or the laddie bit?
Both.
I promised myself I wasn't going to get on my soapbox, but I think that within hospitality, there's a lot of like what I call bro, or what a lot of people call bro culture, where it's like we're like blokes and we like supporting other blokes, and we're going to be really like shouty and horrible, and we get off on being like really egotistical, and it's like,
And if you don't work 80 hours a week,
then
that's a why big aren't one you?
As well,
Yeah.
Like if you
Don't
have
you want to be
if you have
pushing
a
this
day off
hard?
sick, why are you off sick? How dare you have a day off sick? It's like, no, you need to rest, or you need a mental health day, or you need a physical health day. Like, that's fine. The other weird one, me and Annabelle were talking about this the other day. Like the bro chefs that I've worked under really hate washing up gloves. It's like,
Oh, it's seen as
it
a weakness.
blows my
Yeah.
mind.
I don't know, my wife always
Weakness.
puts washing
It-
gloves
yeah.
on. I never
And
think
I'm
to do it.
like,
I just like,
well,
put gloves on for
my
me.
kitchen is the first kitchen where there's been a plentiful supply of washing up gloves, and I'm like, it's not that expensive to do, and it saves your hand. It improves your quality of life. Like, I washed up this week without washing up gloves on. My hands are ruined. Like, it's such a small thing, but it improves the quality of like everyone's life. And it's like, why is it seen as a weakness to wear marigolds? Like, is it because it's a female thing? Like, in quotation marks.
Just trying to show you hard. Like,
Yeah.
I can take the
Some
hit.
blokes
like,
don't care.
and
Like,
it's like-
I know, because I don't.
We still put our hands
hands are
in
already
frying
fucked.
pans and next to a fryer and a blowtorch and everything like that. But I am definitely allergic to fairy liquid. So it is stupid
Yeah.
if I don't use.
Yeah.
Like, that's not bravado. That's like, it's
It's
actually.
just stupidity.
Like,
yeah.
I spend my 2 days off just like realizing how
Moisturising.
broken my hands are.
I was gonna say, they're looking all right at the moment.
It's absolute tons
You
of
should see
steroid
them.
cream.
I'm laughing, but like Sarah's hands get so bad from like washing up, like they'll be all red and inflamed. But they look all right.
Yeah.
I guess because you haven't been washing up
It's
for the last
really
2
great
days.
lighting in here then. Yeah, it's
But
just,
yeah, it's just like
it's
little things like
it
that
is
that just
nice.
add up consistently. Like, I don't know, if you cut yourself, like I like to think that we're quite. I mean, I laugh at one person who consistently drops things and cuts herself, and she knows who she is. But like generally, I try and be like really understanding, and I'm like, do you need a plaster? I'm gonna look away because I hate blood, but I will definitely dress your wound. Or like,
Yeah.
if you need a sit down, have a sit down. And I've never worked in a kitchen where that's just been the standard. Like, if you need a moment just to like collect your thoughts, or if you just need a break, if you need to eat, if you need to do whatever you need to do, just do it. Like,
Yeah, like I think one of the things is as well, like taking breaks
Yeah.
is always seen as weakness.
yeah,
Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
it's
to
like,
eat
I
and
can
work
do-
at the
I
same
can
time,
do it, like,
or like don't
16-hour
have
shift without
lunch,
break.
which
Yeah.
is like, I mean, what other industry would you not get to eat your sandwich
yeah.
at lunchtime?
It's a
Yeah.
very old-fashioned thing.
It
isn't
really
it? Like,
is.
Very
it's
is
But,
like,
like,
old-fashioned.
we
I
know
think
better now. Like you
We
said,
do
you
know
still
better,
do.
but I think there's very few kitchens where it's actually implemented. They'll be like, oh, we know better, we are better. But it's like, do you consistently, and like I'm guilty of it as well, like do you consistently say to your staff, okay, you're having a break, like, or make time for there to be a break? Like, I feel like I constantly am like, Sarah, have you had a break? Sarah, have you had a break? Sarah, have you had a break? And you're always like, no. Or I'm like, are you sitting down for food? And you're like, not today. I'm like, okay, cool. But like, I try and like,
But you do feed me vegetables. I
do
make sure
feed
I
you
drink enough. So that is also
that is
good.
true. That is true.
Yeah,
But like,
and
I just feel like, why is it so difficult just to be like, do you want to sit down? Like, even in service, like we make time in service. Like Amy, our front of house manager, will often come in for a little. She'll only sit on the step. Like, she'll just sit on the step and eat whatever it is she eats, like a little crate.
always got a snack.
She's always got a snack, but like she'll eat it on the step, and it's like, I've never worked in a kitchen where that's just the standard. Like, she's never asked me to do that. I think she normally comes in and goes, oh, I'm just gonna have my little snack now, and it's like, yeah, all right, fine, whatever. But like, no one's ever asked me like, can I eat my food during service? And I like it that way. Like, I don't want you to feel like you have to ask to have some food, ask to have some water, ask to go to the toilet. Like, that's not a thing. Like, why do you have to ask to go for a wee? Like,
Yeah.
Weird,
honestly.
even with school kids like that.
yeah.
Oh,
I just think that-
go for one.
Yeah.
Walk around.
Yeah, and like and injuries.
Yeah,
So
injuries.
I've worked in kitchens where people have like sliced their hand off, which they've had to go to hospital or something after work because it's not, it's still bleeding or whatever.
Yeah.
And like places where like, I mean, the mandolin is usually the culprit, but
Just like looking at my hands, like admiring all my mandolin
Scars.
injuries.
yeah, and stuff like that, and they've clearly got infected. And if someone dared to like have the next day off work, they would not hear the end of it for 6 months or something like that. And I've seen people getting like really run down by that, by how like, because it's more important that they left them in the shit than it is
Yeah.
the fact that you can see from their thumb halfway up their forearm where the infection ends
Yeah.
because of the
that's-
swelling. And it's like, were they supposed to just come in and do a shift like that?
Yeah.
Apparently so. And and then that runs people out of your kitchen.
Yeah.
You're not
Not only
gonna.
that, but it's like, okay, you'd be left in the ship for like a couple of hours while they go to the hospital, get sorted,
Yeah.
and then maybe a couple of days or a few weeks while they get themselves sorted. But
Yeah.
if they're coming in all the time injured, they're gonna be like half-assing it, and then they probably won't even want to be there anyway when
Well,
it does
yeah.
get better. So
And I
Probably
think
hurt
that,
themselves while they're fucking around trying to
Yeah,
come while they
I
can't do
dunno.
it properly anyway.
yeah,
it's hard for us
exactly.
because we're not like, I've spent a little bit of time in the industry, found it really tough. But from the outside, we're like, this is crazy. Like, why do
Yeah.
people live like this? But like,
Well,
we're
I think
glad
that's,
that you
that's
do.
what I'm trying to kind of change through the restaurant. Like, Sarah works what I consider to be full-time hours, which is 8 hours?
5 shifts, yeah, 8 hours.
5 8-hour shifts a week, which
Which is full time.
is full-time, right? So, but she does 3 days a week. So
Just
you're
condensed hours.
yeah, exactly. So Sarah's full-time hours are like what, Wednesday,
So
Thursday, and Saturday.
yeah, so 2 doubles on a single shift, and yeah, and I think
And that gives, like, I am all for that. Like, it means that, you know, we have the flexibility. So we have Sarah in the kitchen. We have Sarah and Annabelle and me. I work a lot because I would. It's my restaurant. I care about it. But, like, I was like, I don't want you to work more than you should. And if you work more than the 5 shifts a week, I will pay you overtime for those shifts. I mean, we kind of have the flexibility where we move them around sometimes. Like, sometimes, you know, Sarah won't work a Saturday daytime and she will work like a Sunday, for example. But I think that really, like, it's a model that really works for us because it means that we've always got someone on call. Like, you know, if Sarah's off sick, I can call in Annabelle, who can potentially work, or, you know, if Annabelle needs a Sunday off, Sarah can probably work it because we've got someone who's always off, if that makes sense. Like, it just kind of works for us. I mean, there's always me who's always there, but
yeah.
I don't know why we haven't switched to that sooner. Like, in restaurants, like, I've done it from where I go, but like, I've always said, like, I don't know why restaurants feel the need to have someone there on a double shift. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be done, especially restaurants that are only open in the evenings. Like, you know, you've got a prep shift, why not have someone doing the prep shift? And I know that it costs more, and like national insurance and tax and all that, but for us, we make it work. Like, and I would be encouraged to see more people doing that. Like, you don't need to work people 80 hours a week.
Yeah, like, you don't have to have people rotated on for 48 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but then actually they're not 48 hours.
Yeah.
It's, you know, 3 hours here, 4 hours
Yeah.
extra there, 5 hours extra there. And before you know it, adds up to like 65 hours.
Yeah.
And everyone's just really run
Exhausted.
down.
Yeah.
Um,
I like, there are
And-
some weeks when we are run down because, you know, like this weekend we did Mother's Day and we all worked pretty bloody hard for that. Like, it was a very intense
but
week.
that's, you know,
but-
that's a whole extra element on top of our normal
yeah, that's true.
a la carte shift. So you go into that knowing.
Mm.
But also, I mean, we wouldn't have decided to do it if we didn't want to.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the nature of the industry that it's going to be quite tough. I mean, it's hard to work at, but there's ways of, if there's a way of making it easier, well, a little
Yeah,
bit easier
exactly.
for yourselves, why not just do that?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Honestly.
do you think it's tough at the moment? I think that's like the ultimate question.
I don't know.
You can be honest. I feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but like, I feel like I don't find it tough. Like, I don't find the hours tough.
Oh no, the hours aren't tough.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the hours
No,
is what I
no.
meant. Like,
But like, I'd say that whenever you work in a creative field, probably always is going to feel tough because you're putting your heart and soul and
yeah,
creativity into it as well
yeah,
as just physically doing it. And also, you know, you are physically doing something as
Yeah.
well, not doing it all by typing or anything.
yeah. I think it's hard to, like, if people don't understand it, but like, physically, I don't know whether I'm just like used to it or something, but I don't find it physically challenging at all. I find it very emotionally and mentally challenging because it's like, this is my baby that people, you know, either like or don't like. It's like holding your child up for the whole world to see and pass judgment on. And
Yeah, I think it's something you get used to.
Yeah.
Staying on your
I think
feet.
like, yeah, like, I mean, I worked 80 odd hours a week when I was like 19, and I remember coming home and like I lived at home at the time and like cried to my mum because I was in so much pain. I used to like sit with my feet in like ice water and then boiling water and then ice water and then boiling water. And I don't have to do that anymore, and I don't wear particularly supportive shoes, but I think it's just that I've kind of created a job where I don't have to be on my feet for that period of time. Like, you know, we start, if we're doing a single shift, we start at like 2-3 o'clock and then finish at 11. Like, it's not, like, for me at least, compared to what I've been used to, it's not the sort of hours that
But I think it creates a job for people that people want to come back to. I think if you get in these jobs where you are working 80 hours a week, there's got to be something holding you there. You've got to believe in the business or what you're doing, and obviously that's what keeps people going back to these big brigade kitchens and doing all these, you know, split shifts and everything. But I think it just helps you keep your creativity as well. If you've got your downtime, I don't know how people keep doing these like crazy 80 hours a week and have got any energy left in their brain to come up with new things.
It's definitely the case. The happiest chefs we speak to are all the ones that are on a 4-day. They're only open 4 days a week, and they've got their break and they've got their time with their families, or they're always the ones that are the most enthusiastic about what they do.
I always think like I created this job for myself. Like, I opened the restaurant to basically give myself a job that works for me, because I don't do well with normal 9-to-5s. I don't really do well with a 5-day week. I want to work a little bit every day, but like on, I don't know, Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they're technically my days off, but I work a little bit and I'm fine with that. Like, I don't mind. I like having the daytime and a Friday off and the daytime and a Saturday off and having a Sunday evening off. Like, I have a lot of time off because that's the way that I've created this job. Like, I just did not do well in these kind of very structured kitchens.
We went to a International Women's Day event at the PEM in London, and we got to speak to a lot of other women in industry, and we were talking to Sally Abbey, who's on in Great British Menu, in the final.
Oh, man.
She's great.
Very
amazing.
We
totally
also
fangirled because we
sat
found
next to Andy Oliver as well.
We were on the table with all of
my
the panelists, and we were like, "What is happening?" But she was telling us about how, because of lockdown, can't remember where she was working previously, but she was doing, 80 hours a week, and then suddenly in lockdown she couldn't do anything. And she said the weirdest thing that she found was that all of her vocabulary like was coming back. There was words that she completely forgotten about. She did like A-level English, and she used to read like mad, but like her brain had packed them away somewhere, but had never had the spare energy because of how much she was working to like put them into use. And there was all of this stuff that she'd forgotten that all came back to her because of she was suddenly eating some vegetables, doing regular exercise, getting some vitamin D from going out in the sunlight because she was in an underground kitchen in London.
I've worked in underground kitchens in London
and stuff like that. And she obviously was like, I don't want to do that, until you get put into a situation where you can see that how it has affected you in the complete opposite. It's not just a 2-week annual leave, like where you kind of go, oh, I suppose I better go back to work. Like, it is like you really see how it's affected you. And then obviously she's got a gig that she absolutely loves now, that she's got more control over what she has to work and everything. And I kind of was like, I can see that, because you don't have any spare time for yourself if you're working all of those crazy hours.
Well, that's something that obviously contributed to the whole staffing kind of crisis that's going on now. Is people
everyone seems to be having a staffing crisis except for us. Like, we don't.
You've got a line of people trying to get in there, haven't you?
Pretty much.
I was like, I want a job there.
I was going to say, I'm tempted to apply for this
No,
job. This
I
looks
just
good.
think, like, I keep talking to people about this, and I quite smugly go, well, I haven't had a staffing crisis. Like,
I mean, there are only 5 of us.
I know, but still. But like, I don't know. I just feel like if you create a job that people will enjoy and go to and want and, be excited about, you're not going to struggle to find staff. Like, every time we've hired, I've filled the vacancy probably the next day. Like, it's not been difficult for us at all. And like, we have only hired what, 4 times? We really haven't hired that many times. There was you, then Amy, Francis, Jasmine, Maggie, then Annabelle, like replacing Jess 6 times. But I just think, like, if you provide a working environment that people and women especially are going to want to work in, like, you're not going to struggle at all. Like, we had so many applications and I was like, well, you know, kind of looking for the best one, and I was like, actually all of these are great. Like, people say so many times, like, oh well, we're really lacking in like pastry chefs in Birmingham. I found one who was fresh out of, like, well, not fresh, but like, she finished at the Cordon Bleu last year and she's been working kind of in other places since, and like, she's great. She's really, really, really good. And I just think, like, this other place has obviously hired her, not realised how great she is, and have lost her. And that's the staffing crisis. Like, people don't understand how to retain their staff or look after the staff they already have. They don't know how to hire for people that maybe, yeah, okay, they do need to train a little bit. Like, you know, Annabelle's been doing it for what, 3 years? Less? I don't know. She's not been doing it for very long, like nowhere near as long as like me or Sarah, but you know, she's still got really like a solid basis for learning, and she's really excited to learn, and she's got these really great skills she learned from the Cordon Bleu, and like, she wants to know everything, and that's all you need from a chef. But people are so like obsessed with finding this perfect chef that doesn't exist, and I'm like, if you're willing to train them even just a little bit, you're fine.
Yeah,
like,
Are you trying to play devil's advocate to that? A few times I spoke to, like, so if you had like some of these hotels in London and there's like they're vast, like the kitchens are huge,
yeah,
and they're open for breakfast, dinner, lunch, room service, functions, events, and then, you know, when you're already down a few staff, and then you are like held to level, you haven't got the time to stop and say, well, what would you like to learn today? You know, it's hard once you're already down to try and get back up. It's
of course.
Really tough.
But then I think that comes from the management. Like, that's where I'm kind of trying to change things, is like at the management, like top level. Like, you know, I try and model the way that I want people to leave Verbena and go on to other kitchens and be like, I won't stand for this. This is how I want to be treated. I was treated really well here, or I was treated to this standard, and I won't ever like drop down from it. So like, you know, these big hotels, perhaps, you know, I've never worked in a big hotel. I took one look at a big hotel when I was looking for placement and said, no, thank you, this isn't for me. But I just think like it has to be a top down approach. Like, you can't put any of like the staffing issues on the people that are working in the kitchens. It's not their fault. It's not, you know, anything to do with them.
What's the alternative? You just closed. I mean, some of them have, like, Michelle Rood, and they closed. They're not doing lunch service anymore.
That's true. I guess like you just kind of have to find a balance, don't you?
When you're a kitchen, it's a team, and you understand what's got to be done if you're short-staffed, and you've got to step up and fill, you know, what needs to be done on the prep list. But also, you also want an environment in which you see that what the jobs have got to be done, and if you're interested in doing something, I'd like to think that you want an environment in which you can go up to your head chef and say, oh, next time you do that, can you go through it with me? Because I think that most people who work in the kitchen, they're the kind of people that are going to pick things up by doing stuff quite quickly. And then that also helps, because then they'll be able to do the job next time. With hospitality as well, because I'd say in a lot of other industries, if you are going to leave a job, I feel like there's a lot more uncertainty about finding another job. Like, I don't think you kind of get it's great at one point, because you know that there's always going to be another restaurant or another place, and even if you're not going to be there for very long, there's always going to be somewhere that will pay you for skills, and that is a brilliant thing. But it also means that if someone isn't getting what they want out of a job, they're going to be more likely to leave, because there will be another restaurant down the road that will take you, and they will take you and the skills that you've learned at your current job, and then that will be left with a hole where you were. And I think if you're not doing any staff retention, then you're not going to get the benefits of those staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, coming back to what you said about what can be done, I think, like, for me personally, I own it, right? And how many owners do you see in the kitchen every single service? Like, I think for me, that's like the most important thing for me, is like, I'm there every service, unless like, you know, we're super quiet or like I've booked the day off, and I think I've booked like 5 services off or something, or I've missed 5 services.
Probably
and,
not
like,
even that, but yeah.
Like the whole year, it's nearly a year now. In the whole year we've been open, and I can't ever imagine myself not being in the kitchen. I think unless you're prepared to be putting in those hours as someone who opens a business and owns a business, you can't then be blaming the staffing crisis on everyone else but yourself. Like, not obviously, wow, that sounds really bad. Take that back. You can't like be blaming like the staffing crisis on like all of the other like elements. I think unless you're like in the kitchen yourself, like, or are prepared to be in the kitchen if you're short staffed, I think like at that point that's when you're like, okay, actually maybe there are other factors at work, you know, Brexit at work, people not wanting to be in hospitality. And I think sure, like in the big restaurants, especially in London, like, yeah, a lot of people have left hospitality because they've realised that it's not a fun place to work, like for a lot of people.
Work-life balance.
Yeah, they want a better work-life balance. And, you know, I think if you as a restaurant, there needs to be this shift in hospitality. And there's been like murmurs of it over the last few years, like, but I think at the moment, like there are some great conversations happening. Like we listened to one when we went to that International Women's Day event about how we can start changing hospitality for the better and giving people that work-life balance that will hopefully stop this exodus of, you know, chefs and front of house and like really talented people. Like, especially in Birmingham, I feel like our biggest challenge is stopping people from leaving to go to London. Like, I know so many really, really, really excellent chefs that have just been like, the opportunities aren't there, I'm going to London, like, and that's that. And it's like, how do we stop that from happening? But also, how do we get people into hospitality in the first place? And like, there are so many ways you can do that, like modeling to people that, or like young people, that it is a really good career. It can be really, you know, it may not pay the best, it won't be a particularly like profitable, lucrative, yeah, it won't be a particularly like lucrative career, but you know, if you're passionate about it, the opportunities are there in Birmingham. Like, we have the most fine dining restaurants outside of London, and we have so many restaurants and such a vibrant food scene, and people don't realise, and they kind of leave and go to London. They're like, the opportunities are better, and it's like, well, I came from London to Birmingham, so yeah. But I don't know, I just think, yes, I agree that there is a staffing crisis. We haven't necessarily experienced that in the restaurant, but that doesn't mean that it's not true.
Yeah, we just haven't
had as many
positions to fill.
Yeah.
I just also can't fit any more people in the kitchen.
2 people maximum.
Literally can't get past a third person.
Yeah, it's true.
1 member of staff per customer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but without sounding harsh, you got to look at the things you can control first. So what are you doing about it? You know, Brexit, you can't control it.
Yeah, of course.
Somebody changes their mind, hospitality is no longer for them.
But
you can't
why,
control
but why is hospitality no longer for them?
You can control what you can do. In your 4 walls, what can you do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of different reasons why people leave hospitality. But when people are coming and saying, I'm going to resign, if the reasons they give, if it's possible that you can be flexible,
why not?
Then why not?
Yeah.
We were talking before about the amount of women in hospitality, front and back of house. They reach a certain age or decide they want to have children, and they feel like they have to leave. But if they're not given the option of doing part-time, or if they're going to do a split shift at a certain time so they can pick up kids from school, or if they don't have any maternity leave cover or anything like that, or if they can't leave on go on maternity leave and expect their job still be there, then they will have to leave.
Yeah, and they won't come back.
They can't feed their kids if they're not getting paid, or if, you know, stuff like that. So you have to make different plans, and that is cutting out a whole section of your hospitality staff, you know, your workforce. And if you can't do that flexibility for the people who are making your business viable, it's, you know, it's that is your biggest, best power that you've got is your staff.
And this is someone at some point you thought, oh, I have to have this person work for me because you hired them in the fucking first place.
Well, yeah,
so
exactly.
They must have had something you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like that's your most valuable asset as like a business, as like a restaurant or like a bar or whatever. I mean, like, it's your staff. Like, they're the people. If you're not working there as like just you, if it wasn't just me, my staff are my most valuable thing. Like, I would be nothing without Amy, Sarah, Frances, Annabelle, Maggie, you know, Jasmine, all of these people that have worked at the restaurant, even like my friends who have just helped me out. We wouldn't be anywhere near the level that we are without them. And I think too many people take their staff for granted. And I hope that I would never do that. I don't want to ever do that because, you know, we've all been in the position where we felt taken for granted, and it sucks. Like, it's horrible. It makes you want to leave, and, you know, you don't get credit for things that you do. Like, I don't know if you ever noticed, but like, I'm always like, Sarah did this or Annabelle did this. And I'm like, that's like a little thing that I can do that kind of shows to the outside world it's not just me. It's not just Chloe Qureshi, the restaurant. It's Verbena. It's not my restaurant. It's our restaurant. Like, I kind of want everyone who works there to feel like they have the power to change things if they need to. Like, if something isn't working for them, we can change it. Like, I'm very open to it. And I think it's quite like, I've certainly have never worked in a restaurant like it, and like, I'm really proud that that's sort of the environment that I'm trying to create. Like, I want to create an environment that is accepting, kind, generous, loving. And I think unfortunately that does, or fortunately, but that does kind of tend to attract women. I'm trying to think very carefully about how I phrase this so I don't sound like awful, but like, I know that I as a woman want to work in an environment like that. I found that it takes a lot to kind of make me feel comfortable in a kitchen full of men, especially when there's like, you know, sex jokes being thrown around, or, you know, passing comments on female waiters. Like, it takes a lot for me to be like, okay, I really like you and you're great. I never want anyone to feel like that in like my restaurant. I was like, I don't want that sort of environment to ever come across like that. And like, yeah, we still make sex jokes like kind of constantly. Like, we still have that sort of banter. It's not saying I don't want the laddie banter. We still have banter, we still make jokes, we still take the piss out of each other, but it's in quite a warm, loving way, and you know that it's never going to be taken too far, or no one's ever going to feel uncomfortable. And if they do feel uncomfortable, they'll just be like whoa, that's enough, and like, they feel comfortable saying that. And I just think like that's how we attract more women into the industry. Like, that's a question I get asked all the time. It's like, how do we attract more women into industry? How do we attract more women like into cooking and chefs and like savoury kitchens? And it's like, you make it an appealing place for a woman to be.
Tell them to get it out when they're trying to rip your clothes off in the middle of a kitchen, and then maybe they'll want to stay there.
Well, yeah, that's never happened to me, but
All right.
Not to me, but there was a lovely job, a lovely game in one of the kitchens where they try and take your bra off without a 3 or chef jacket.
Jesus.
Whilst you're trying to work. No, but but if you've got your head chef that's encouraging you or laughing it, then it sets a precedent that everyone can get away with it.
Yeah. And like,
you know, and you wonder why people are leaving, and it's because actually the head chef the other day ripped open their top in the lift in front of loads of people that work next door.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you have to, as soon as front of house leave to go serve a table, you have to listen to all of the things they would quite like to do to the 17-year-old servers. And it's like, no wonder people are leaving.
Yeah.
Or
like, women are leaving.
Well, like, yeah, and also, you know, staffing generally, not just women. Like, if you keep going thinking, oh, if they're not good enough, they're not flexible enough, whatever, we'll just, you know, we can just find another chef. Then if you think of them as disposable, then they're going to feel disposable and just leave anyway. Yeah. And go somewhere else. Yeah. And I think if you feel valued in the place that you work, you're more likely to put more energy and, you know, actually stay in the job. And I think you'll get better work out from them as well.
Yeah, if you don't abuse your staff, you might get something more out of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah.
It's like,
Jesus.
Yara said in our podcast a few weeks ago, though, she's like, a woman should be able to just come in and be an awesome chef. Why did they have to try twice as hard as everybody else? Like, and then
I completely agree.
She said it best. So she said, like, you know, it's on whoever the dominant gender in that kitchen is. It's on them to kind of make it welcome into it. And if that means you have to drop
the
banter,
bravado,
I hate the word banter, like, but if you have to drop that, then so be it. Like, you know, think about what you're doing, and it's a weird. I mean, I'm sure it happens in other industries, but it feels like kitchens is like a real. Yeah, like,
it doesn't. You don't have the people in management or above to stomp down on it. There's no, you don't have.
There's never any HR. Like,
there's never
we don't have a HR. I am HR, but I am also the owner.
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
there's not, you know, even places that we won't name that have got HR, there's no repercussions in a lot of places.
That is true.
It'll just be like, oh, I was just joking.
That's what happens in the kitchen.
And that's what happens, you know.
And if you can't deal with it, you get out, Yeah,
and it's you that needs a thicker skin, and it's like, well, actually, and it turns out there are places that aren't like that. And once you work in one, you're like, I'm not going back.
No.
Yeah, they managed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, when I worked at Resorts World, Daryl Collins, he worked in all these old school kitchens, but was determined to not make it like that. Yeah, and it was, you know, he had to put loads of extra effort into it. He wasn't just a head chef like I'd worked in other kitchens. Like, he spent more time and, you know, more energy in training and, you know, pointing out people's skills. And if you weren't doing well on something, you know, if you're really fucking it up, it wasn't like made such a big deal. You were never berated in front of the rest of the kitchen. You know, it was being private, and it would be, this person's doing it really well, they're going to show you, but then the next time you show them something. And it's like, it's not a big deal that you're not as good at one thing. It's just that some people are better at this and some people are better at that, and you know, you share the skills and you share the wealth, and then you all get great at something.
Yeah. I've tried to like really remove the word like you're doing, or the phrase you're doing it wrong from like my vocabulary, especially like after becoming, I mean, I hate being it, but like essentially I am a manager. Like, I try not to be like, you're doing it wrong, because I think that already, it puts people on the defensive. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not doing it right. And also, who am I to dictate whether this is right or wrong? Like, it's just not how I want it done. Like, this isn't how I want it specifically done. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's not morally wrong. It's not like, you know, physically wrong. It's just not how I want it to be. I mean, I don't know, maybe if you put salt instead of sugar into something, yeah, okay, you've done it wrong, like physically. That's not how it works. But like, if it's, I don't know, cutting broccoli not the same way that I would want it cut, it's like, it's not a bad thing. It's not like, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's just not how I want it done. And that's on me for not telling you clearly enough how I want it done. And I think that's like one of the things that I've really tried to like implement, is like, no one ever does anything wrong, like in the restaurant, unless, yeah, I mean, there's like the obvious things, but like generally, no, it's just not the way that I want it done. And I think that's like in my brain trying to like really make a difference in the way that I talk to people and the way that, you know, people react to things.
I think it's just good management now. You know, years ago that people focused on like the things that people weren't good at and just focused on that and then berate them for that instead of doing that. Why don't you just focus on the things they're good at?
Yeah, exactly.
And let them run wild with that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's why I let Sarah do whatever it is that she wants to do in the kitchen. I'm just like, Sarah's like, can I do this? I'm like, yeah, whatever. Crack on. I know it's going to be great.
Imagine going up to your pastry chef and being like, why can't you wash dishes as good as the kitchen porter? What's the matter with you?
Honestly.
You know, it's insane. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, like someone that's been there for 2 weeks just being like, well, you've done all this wrong. It's like, well, you didn't show me. Yeah. Like, you didn't show me properly. Like, that's not the person's fault. Like, you didn't.
Also, on a boring practical level, the recruitment's so expensive. It's like one of your biggest expenses.
Yeah.
So if you can put more time and money in training someone, retaining staff, surely that's far better than recruitment.
Well, exactly. And it's just so dull as well. I'm not being funny. Like, that was like the worst thing, was like looking for someone. I was like trawling through CVs and like having to be like, okay, do I want this person? Are they good enough? Do they seem excited enough? And then doing the interviews, I was like fully just having a chat with each of these people, and I was like, this isn't how you're supposed to interview people. I was like, yeah, so like there's this really exciting thing that you could do, and there's this really exciting thing, and it's like at the end, like I did get asked twice. I was like, Amy, our front of house manager, and Annabelle both were like, do I have the job? And I had to be like, oh, I mean, yeah, you got the job like as soon as you walked in, pretty much. But it's just I find it really dull recruiting. I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I want to be in the kitchen. I want to be cooking. And it's like one of those admin-y things. And it's like, if I can make my life easier by not having to do this really boring thing, I'm going to do it. If that means letting Sarah run wild on our ordering thing and buying all the praline in the world.
That's never that much praline. Like, it was a normal amount of praline. I'd like point
just
out.
eye-wateringly expensive. But you know, like things like that, like, you know, Amy will just go out and buy scissors, for example. Like, I've worked in so many places where it's like, am I allowed to buy a pair of scissors? It's like, yeah, you can. You don't have to ask me, just crack on with it, it's fine. Like, I just try and be really like open and, you know, fine with that sort of thing. And that's about me making my life easier by keeping my staff, because I don't want to be recruiting and I really don't enjoy it. So I would rather just keep who I have for as long as humanly possible.
Well, it's safe to say you opened at an incredibly peculiar time when most places were closing down.
Yeah.
And wondering whether they'd ever reopen. You decided to just go out and open a brand new place.
Yeah, I did.
We
do
kind of
that.
skipped ahead there. You're still skipping, but when did you decide you were just going to open your own restaurant? Was it you just had enough of every other kitchen and then?
Oh, so
February 2020.
It was February. Well, so I left my job at the time because I wanted to go freelance for a bit. I was like, the market's kind of there for freelance chefs. Like, everyone's kind of looking. If, like, basically I get told about an opportunity, I can just take it and then, you know, do that. I would, like, didn't take a gap year or anything. And I was like, 2020, gonna be my gap year. It's gonna be great. Left on Valentine's Day. I was like, yep, sick, gonna do it. And then I worked at Cork and Cage for a bit, just behind the bar, and I was like, yep, this is great, loving it. Like, I have so much freedom. I don't have to worry about anything. And then it was like, oh, okay, the world is going to shit. Like, great. And I had, like, the whole of March planned out, and I think April as well. Like, I was going to work for someone consistently. And I was like, after April, it's fine. Like, I'm taking a bit of a pay cut, but I can still afford my rent. It'll be fine. And then, yeah, we went into lockdown, and I was like, well, fuck. Like, I was too late to go back to my old job because they kind of did a month and I, like, just missed it. I couldn't claim any, like, self-employed status because I'd been self-employed for a month. And I didn't have any work, and I was like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I don't know. So I went and worked for and I'd also just signed on the restaurant as well. Like, I kind of had this idea that I'd be freelance chefing but also have this space for women in hospitality. That was like my original plan for the space, because I thought, like, you know, I'll take this year off and I'll work on women in hospitality, which is, I don't know if you, like, plug it before, but, like, this is my network, and it's for, like, a women-led initiative to kind of bring women together in Birmingham. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to work on women in hospitality. I'm going to run all these events and also work freelance to kind of fund my own life. And I've, like, got this space. It's going to be, like, an event space. It's going to be an office. Like, it's going to be great. And I'd, like, literally signed the contract maybe a week before lockdown. And I was like, okay, don't really know what to do now. So I contacted my landlords and was like, what do I do? Like, I obviously can't do anything because, you know, I don't even know if people are going to want to come to events because they're, like, the whole point of them was that you network, you're face to face. Like, it doesn't really translate very well to the internet. And I was like, don't really know what to do. And then I was like, well, kind of always wanted to have a restaurant, so fuck it, why not? Let's just do that. And, like, I'd done a couple of, like, successful supper clubs before, and it was a bit like, well, there's not really the sort of food that I would want to serve. Like, I haven't seen it in Birmingham, the food that I serve. And I was like, well, like, let's just, like, see where it goes. And, like, my landlords gave me till September rent free, and they're like, if you want to do this, you've got until September to kind of, like, make your mind up. And I was like, cool, I'm just gonna do it. Like, we'll just do it and, like, hope for the best. And, like, that's kind of how I do everything in my life.
She did not tell me this when she hired me.
Oh no, I didn't tell you that.
So I'm just finding this out now. But it was just like, let's just have a go at a restaurant.
Let's just have a go at a restaurant. I had firmly decided when I hired you. I mean, I had the kitchen installed.
Oh yeah.
Did you come aboard, like, were you the first employee? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I randomly bumped into, so I think we'd met at a women in hospitality event before the pandemic, and then kind of forgotten about each other, and then I randomly bumped into Sarah. I was, like, running up and down to Stirchley High Street doing something stupid, and Sarah was there, and I was like, oh hi, how are you? And she was like, I'm being made redundant. And I was like, I'm opening a restaurant, do you want to come and work there? And Sarah was like, yeah, all right, I'll let you know. And then 6 months later, there we are, she joined me in the restaurant. But yeah, I kind of just didn't really have a plan to start off with. I had this space, and I was like, I know that a restaurant would eventually work. I know that that's a solid business plan, this kind of event space for women in hospitality that didn't really have any like sense behind it. It was just kind of like this idea that I had. I was like, I don't think that really has a grounding, but I do know that I love restaurants, and this is probably what I would eventually do. I would eventually open a restaurant. I just kind of like got sped up by the pandemic, and I'm quite glad that it did, because I got Verbena at a very, very good price. I didn't really have to like negotiate at all. Like, they just gave it to me, and I didn't have to fight for it. There was no one else looking because it was a pandemic. Who else was looking to rent a unit in a pandemic? Can highly recommend, by the way. No one else would be fighting you for it. And then just like quietly worked on it, like pretty much throughout the whole pandemic. I was like, well, I've got it now. Might as well just, keep going with it. And it was kind of like buoyed by the fact that, I would have this space that I could do whatever the fuck I wanted with. I was like, I'm not constrained to someone else, and I'm not having to pay someone else to be there. But I mean, I am, but I wasn't having to pay like another restaurant to be there. I was like, I can use it for women in hospitality. I can use it to do stupid pop-ups at whatever I want to do. Like, it's mine. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, let's do it. And then kind of said to I remember saying to my mum, once I'd fully decided it was going to be a restaurant and like had the name and like had the kitchen installed, it was like July, and I went, oh yeah, Mum, I think we'll be open in September. And she was like, yeah, fucking right. Like, of course, you're not going to be open in September. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we'd kind of like everything had reopened in July, and I went back to working at Cork and Cage just while like everything was going on. And like then we had to shut again, and I was like, great. And then like Richard, one of the owners, was like, so are you gonna like what's the plan? Because like, are you gonna come back here after, or are you just now gonna be working at the restaurant full time? And I was like, don't really know. And he was like, well, you kind of need to make that decision. Like, you can't just keep just floating along. And I was like, I suppose I'll just have to open the restaurant properly then. And then at that point I approached Rory and Farah and were like, do you want to do this thing together? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing on my own, but if you want to do something together, we're both kind of in a position where we need money, and I have this whole restaurant that I need to fucking pay for.
We still couldn't eat inside, could we?
No.
So we could do takeaways.
So we did takeaway, yeah.
Takeaway.
From, I think it was November we started doing that,
yeah.
or October. Then we went back into lockdown in October, and we started then, and we were like, we'll just do a month of it, see how it goes, because they told us, oh, you'll only be in lockdown for a month, and then we all know what happened. So yeah, opened at really not the best time, but it kind of worked out for me. It's like very much my nature. I think nobody was really very surprised when I just turned around to my family and were like, yeah, by the way, I know that I don't have a job, and I know that like I'm working on the OPM burger van, but I'm also opening a restaurant. And my mum was like, cool, what can we do to help? Like, are you I think the first thing she said was like, are you sure? And I was like, yep. And she was like, okay, what can I do to help? Like, I'm not in Birmingham, I'm in London, but what can I do? And I was like, dunno, but we'll find something. And she ended up making like the seat cushions in the restaurant, like all the seat pads. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna happen. And my sister was like, are you absolutely sure? And I was like, yeah, I think so, I've got the space. And she was like, oh, okay, well, you've got quite far on it, sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, like, it's just happening now. And she was like, do you want me to help design it? I was like, yeah, all right. And then I don't think she actually ended up helping that much, but yeah, she was like,
she gave you loads of ideas,
yeah,
for
she
layout,
loads of ideas
and things
for layout,
like that.
and
she's an interior architect.
Yeah, my sister's an interior architect, very useful. And yeah, it just kind of happened like that. I was like, really not how I would recommend anyone open a restaurant ever again. Please don't follow my advice. But yeah, that's how I did it. And then randomly bumped into Sarah, took her for soup outside Caffenian, and was like, do you want to come work for me?
All of our interviews were in the cold.
They were.
Outside in a garden on a bench or something.
Yeah.
But,
I'm shocked by that story, because when you go there, it seems so slick. Like, doesn't it?
I'm glad it seems. I feel like I shouldn't expose us.
it's all Amy.
But even from the outside, when it all came along, it just like, oh, yeah, of course she's opening a restaurant.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like no one really...
You kind of got to a point where you were like, I want to work for myself.
Yeah. I was like, I think I would recommend that every chef do a pop-up, because you will find out how much money you can make by working for yourself. And, or maybe I shouldn't recommend that. Please don't do that, Sarah. Sarah, don't do that.
Don't leave me.
Don't leave me. But I did this one pop-up, and I was like, oh my God, I've made all this money and it all goes to me. Like, what the fuck? This is like 2/3 of what I make in a month working for someone else. And I was like, why are more people not doing this? Like, it's just like, and I was like, I have all the flexibility I want. If I can do a pop-up like this twice a month, that's my whole, like, that's what I'm earning by working however many, like 5-day weeks, and I'd be working like 4 days in the whole month. I was like, yep, I want to do that. Like, I want to just work weekends for a bit, and I'm fine working weekends, I don't care. And I was like, this is just what I want to do. Like, I just don't want to work for someone else anymore. I'm sick of being told what to do. I'm sick of, like, you know, making money for someone else. I just don't want to do it. And I'm sick of, like, working somewhere that, you know, isn't the sort of food that I would necessarily want to cook. And I was like, okay, well, fuck it, let's just do it. Let's just do it on my own. And that's kind of why I went freelance. And then the sort of end goal of the freelance thing would be to then open the restaurant. But I just kind of skipped out on that bit. Skipped the gap year. And
we often get told we get chefs listening to this while doing prep and stuff. You know,
do they?
I feel like every chef's just like,
just prick their ears up. I'm not saying any figures of how much money I made. No, don't do it. I'm sorry to all business owners in Birmingham.
All head chefs are just like cursing Chloe.
I'm so sorry.
Everyone's just all lost their sous chef all in one day.
Yeah.
Why Verbena?
Oh, it's quite sweet. It's my mum's favourite flower and my favourite herb. So, like, there's lemon verbena, which is the herb, and then Verbena bonariensis, which is like the purple cloudy flower that you see in National Trust gardens. And we kind of had this running joke, me, my mum and my sister, of like whenever we saw verbena, we'd be like, Verbena bonariensis, and like we'd kind of point it out to her, and it was like a little bit silly, but I kind of thought, like, this is the sort of restaurant that I want to bring my mum and my family to. Why not call it this name? And I can't remember, but I think it might have been growing in my granddad's garden as well. Like, it's just like this like little kind of family joke that we had, and I love.
I now do see it everywhere I go.
Yeah,
I didn't notice it before.
Yeah,
and now because it's really tall as well.
Yeah,
so
it's like beautiful. Yeah. It's like such a beautiful flower as well, and it's like green with the purple clouds on the top. And I was like, it just seemed like the right thing to call it. I think I was like kind of missing my mum at the time because I'd decided when I hadn't seen her for like months and months and months, and I was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna call it that. And then kind of like translates enough that you know it's a restaurant, but also isn't like super descriptive of it. So I was like, yeah, it's just quite a pretty, nice name. Yeah, that is the name.
You said a couple of times nobody was doing your style of food. How would you describe your style of food?
I think I just hadn't been anywhere that did affordable 3 courses. Like, yeah, I wanted to go somewhere, you know, this is, my mum might listen to this and be like, you're chatting out of your ass, but like, I don't feel like my mum understands, what's it called? Small plates. Like, and I don't really like small plates. I know that's like travesty. Like, how can you not like small plates? I like starter main pudding. I'm that sort of person. I'm a bit like traditional about it. And I was like, there's nowhere that I can go for a nice meal in nice surroundings. There's not a pub. And I was like, I just want to go somewhere like that. And I want to take my mum and I want to take my family. And I want it to be somewhere that's like a little bit more, not upmarket, but like a little bit more, what's the word? Like, it feels like more of an occasion when you go. Like, I feel like if you're going for small plates and sharing, it has its place. I love it. It's not necessarily my favourite type of food, but like, I think it does have a really, really like solid plate. And I think we're spoilt for choice on small plates in Birmingham. But I just never really went anywhere that did like, here's your starters, here's your mains, here's your pudding. It's pretty like simplistic food, but it's just cooked quite well and it's still affordable. It's in a nice surroundings. We've got,
and it's really relaxed.
Super relaxed.
We try and make like a really chilled out. Like, sometimes when you go to somewhere in which you get chefs with skills and it's, you know, everything is actually handmade. Yeah. You know, you get your bread and you get it's not out of a packet or anything. Yeah. But it often comes with kind of restaurant environment that isn't entirely comfortable. Yeah. Like, you feel like you have to, you know, I know obviously hopefully when you're outside with other people you're on your best behaviour, but like, you kind of have to have those airs and graces, and it's, you know, whereas we've kind of tried to have like front of house, like service and staff be much more chilled out. Like, it's not like, you know, they like Amy and Francis like have a chat with customers, like have more conversation, you know, and it's like even how Chloe has like designed and decorated the restaurant, it feels like super like calm and chilled out, and you know, it's just really chill and relaxed, but you're getting some really great food that, you know, is like we've actually thought about it, but then it doesn't have to be that you've saved up and you've you know, you've had to miss out on something else to go. You can, like, obviously it depends on your like household income or whatever, but it can be that you decide that weekend you're going to go out for a meal in Verbena, and it's not like a massive dent in your thing if you want to go and have, you know, just have a nice evening out or something. And it was kind of also one thing we talk about a lot is that when you work in hospitality, a lot of the places that are banging out this absolutely great food, it's out of reach for people who work in hospitality. Yeah. Like, you have to save, and it's a massive thing just for one night. Yeah. Going to somewhere amazing, if they've got a star or not, you know, and it's kind of like, it's a big sacrifice to make it. You're going to have a great time and you're going to love the food, but it is catered. It is catered to those people that have got loads more disposable income, not you people, commie chefs, obviously, you know, and stuff like that. And I think that's a shame sometimes. And I know a lot of people, I've seen quite a few people this year, they've having hospitality nights or hospitality tables. I think that's really great. It's still £250. Yeah. But it's 250 instead of 450. Yeah. And I think it's I think that's a shame. I've often thought that is that, you know, you sit in a wonderful place, but no one who's training to be a chef would ever be able to afford a drink there, let alone go out for dinner.
So the restaurant that I worked in for my placement, and like I absolutely loved this restaurant, and we will probably go quite soon, but we were talking about going, and I remember saying, you know, I'm 26, and I was like, I want it to be for my 30th. Like, I want to go there for my 30th birthday, and I want to like have the full works, and I'll start saving now because it's so expensive. And my friend was like, but it's going to be probably twice as much in 4 years' time. You do realise that? And I was like, fuck. Okay, I need to go now then. Like, it'll be a lot of money now, but I can save up for that. And I was like, then I was thinking about it, and I was like, I worked in this restaurant for a year and I never ate there. And I am thinking about having to save up in order to eat there. And it just blows my mind. I'm like, you know, how many places are there that are just out of reach for your average, you know, hospitality person? And you know,
obviously they have a place because they're that expensive because you've got so many staff.
Yeah, and you've got so many courses, you've got and you can afford to like look for like single origin things.
You've got a massive brigade because to do that amount of prep for each element that's going on in your dish, and obviously, you know, the surroundings and the ingredients and everything like that. But I think there is a gap in the, you know, the price structure for some like handmade food that isn't out of reach for hospitality.
Yeah. And I remember saying, like, when I was working at this great restaurant in London, I was like, I think I was talking to my mum about it, and I was like, I really want to do a restaurant that's like fine dining in quotation marks, but isn't the same amount of money. Like, I want it to have the principles of fine dining, but I don't want it to have like the multi-course tasting menu like that. I know that that's like out of reach for some people, even just physically, like you can't physically eat a full like tasting menu. But also like the budget, like I don't want it to feel like, you know, you're having to save up in order to go there. I want it to be like more of a kind of middle ground of, you know, you're spending probably what, like 100, 120 quid at ours, like on like between two, sorry, not each, between two. Imagine that, like, oh yeah, we're so affordable, you have to spend £120 each with us. But I think like for me, like that's quite a good middle ground. Like it's not somewhere I'd go to every week, but you know, maybe I'd go there once a month, or if, you know, I had family coming up, I'd take them there because, you know, it is still within a good budget. But there's like so many little things that I picked up. Like my background is almost entirely, well, it's like quite hilarious, like entirely Michelin star and fine dining, and then also cafes. Like there was no in between. It was just like Michelin star, cafe, fine dining, cafe, and I was like, okay, cool. But like there's loads of stuff that you pick up from working in fine dining and Michelin star restaurants that you can just introduce. Like the one that I worked in London, Kitchen Table, they've now got 2 stars. I will never forget like Sandia, she's the like other owners. There's James and Sandia who own it, and Sandia once said like, oh, I always walk like I'm a ballerina. And I said that to Amy recently. I was like, yeah, I don't know if you ever noticed, but like I try and float around the restaurant, like so that you're like not in people's way and like you're not intrusive. And I don't know, it's kind of like one of those things of the way that you hold yourself and like the way that you kind of walk around. I was like, I don't ever want to like stomp through the restaurant or run through the restaurant, like. And like even with the food, like we buy pretty much nothing in order to like make the menu. Like I'd say probably like 90% of what we have on the menu is completely homemade. Like I feel like I've been to like places that charge the same amount as us. Like you can go to, you know, a shit restaurant in central London, you'll probably get charged £35 and it's all come out of a packet. And I'm like, especially our pudding section, like, oh my god, I could go on about the pudding section forever, but I was like,
you go to a Miller and Car and spend 120.
well, yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think you'll struggle to find somewhere. And like my friend said this to me the other day, like I think your puddings are the best puddings in Birmingham. And I was like, what? Like no.
I'd
like
go
surely
with that,
not.
to be honest.
I know. I was thinking about it, and I was like, actually, the only other two members of staff that are in the kitchen are both pastry chefs. Like I'm the only one who's not. I know nothing about pastry.
Makes a great birthday cake then.
Thank you. Yeah, I know nothing about pastry, and I kind of like decided that I wanted to have pastry chefs because I've been to so many great restaurants and the food's been incredible, and like, you know, you'll have like these great breads and like the starter and the main, it'll be amazing, and you get to pudding, it's like chocolate mousse, and I'm like, like there's nothing wrong with chocolate mousse, but it's just so boring, like
with some shortbread on the side.
Yeah, or like lemon pasta. I mean, we have put lemon and pasta on the menu actually, but like
on a Sunday, it's
Sunday
a crowd
menu.
pleaser.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's a good
But
Sunday
like,
pudding.
or I don't know, like lemon pasta, or it's like a brownie, and I'm like, they're just so dull. Like I'm such a pudding person that I was like, I knew that I wanted our pudding section to be great, like and like really, really good. And I just feel like that's something that's like so unique to us. Like I think more work goes into each of the puddings and goes into the whole of the rest of the menu. Like Sarah is so, well, and Annabelle are so like good at what they do and so talented and creative, and I'm like, there's nowhere that I've eaten that's like this, like where the puddings are just as good if not better than the like savoury food, and I think they just get overlooked so often.
Yeah, but also I have worked in places in which you feel like you're on a pastry section, but it's sort of just the last thought. Like no one, like they put in loads of effort and loads of staff into starters, hot starters, cold starters, mains, even vegetarian, and then it's just sort of like, oh, you know, not everyone will order that, so
Yeah.
or it doesn't really matter. Like, or I don't know, I don't even know really why. I think maybe because they don't have the
in short of supply.
Yeah, I think maybe because people who are writing them don't have an insight into like pastry skills. They don't even, it doesn't even pass their mind about what they're going to put on the menu. It's just like, because they don't have the skills or the recipes in their head to sort of put together a dessert that's, you know, a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Or after a couple of years of working like in kitchens like that where they don't really care about pastry, you kind of want to be like, when you've got the opportunity and the license to go and do that and make what you want and put all the elements you want on, and you know, and sort of create your vision of what you think of this dessert should be, I think then you kind of let yourself do that a bit more to sort of make up for all those rubbish like ones you were forced to plate.
Yeah.
So
we switched like in, was it January or February, we switched to 3-course? I don't know. It was this year. We switched over to 3-course. We used to be 2. You could either have 2 courses or 3 courses. And we found that like because the puddings were on a separate menu, people weren't ordering it, and I was like, they need to be having the puddings because they are the best thing about this restaurant. Like,
I feel sorry for those people who
yeah,
only had the 2.
and me, like when it's like, oh, they're not having, like Amy would come in and be like, they're not having pudding. I'm like, oh, like they're missing out. Like they're so good, they're so interesting, they're so like well thought out and like well done. And I'm like, I could just be saying that because it's my restaurant, but I genuinely believe it. Like I could never do anything like that. I can make a chocolate mousse. If Sarah wasn't with me, you'd be having chocolate mousse and probably lemon posset. Like that's what I'd do. But like,
but that's the thing, is we have written a menu, a 3-course menu with the intention of people having the 3 courses.
Yeah.
And some great wines or drinks to go with it. So it is kind of a bit of a, you kind of feel it's a bit of a shame when the people who have chosen to come to you, visit you, like don't get the full experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same at home. If someone says they don't want pudding, I'm like, take it home with you.
Yeah.
Come on, here is some Tupperware. Please take my pudding and my Tupperware. Please take my Tupperware. But so I think
it's just like I think the restaurant is so personal. Like it's everything that I want when I go out. Like, I want to have some nice food, and then I want a great pudding. Like, I'm not even kidding. I probably have pudding with every meal. Like breakfast, I'll have a bit of pudding with that, thank you.
Oh, I've had breakfast pudding in the
Oh,
past.
it's the best.
Early
It's
bird,
so
definitely.
Oh my god. So I've just moved to like just around the corner from Early Bird, and they keep saying like, oh, we need to get a black cardiorina all the time. I was like, yeah, I know. Like we go for brunch, I'm like, should we have pudding cake as well?
There are,
and then cakes to take away as well.
Yeah.
I'm always finding half-eaten cakes or pastries around the place from Early Bird usually, or 10-4, or like
Yeah, because I'll get it home and I'm like, they're always too big. I think that's like not even a criticism, but like they're too big for me to eat in one sitting. So I'm like, just take the rest of it with me. Then I forget about it and I'm like, but it's still good. It's still good. I will still eat that in like 3 hours time.
Like a munched cruffin, like some like, I'm like, but yeah, just found like in a cupboard somewhere.
Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, like I just knew that like puddings were like something that I really wanted to implement and have something really good. And then bumping into Sarah randomly on Stirchley High Street when I was running around just kind of sealed it for me. I was like, I just knew that was what I wanted to happen. I wanted Sarah to work at the restaurant and I wanted her to do her amazing puddings, and then I wanted anyone else who worked there to also be doing amazing puddings as well. So
would you ever do a night of just puddings? You can have 3-course puddings.
I was like, someone suggested it the other day and I was like, we could, but I feel like whenever you go to anything like that, you always come out feeling a bit sick. And I was like, that's not the intention.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah.
No, I just want 4 puddings then.
Really?
All
right, next time you come.
4 puddings.
Next time you come, you can have all of them.
I might miss the star and just go for main and then a couple of puddings.
Yeah, do
we
it.
do have a couple of regulars that like Manny, who always, if there are 3 puddings on and there's 2 of them, she'll always order 3.
Yeah.
And even when, like after Christmas, when we went to 2 puddings and then incorporate the cheese onto the menu as well, she would still order 3 but have 2 of the same type.
That was funny.
She's a very big pudding fan of ours, so
that's the thing. I feel like if you're a pudding fan, you are a pudding fan. Like if you're either gonna have it and be excited about it, or it's just gonna be shit and you're not gonna have it. So I was like, I never want it to be shit and you're not gonna have it. Like it's always gotta be great. So yeah, that was kind of like the pudding journey. Please come to the restaurant and eat our puddings because they're fucking great. There's no new events on the horizon.
I was going to say, if there's anything you want to bring up, now's the time.
No, never anything I want to bring up.
Can't announce the pudding night then.
We'll think about it. But
if there are any women in hospitality that want to meet other women in hospitality.
Oh yeah, we should probably talk about women in hospitality very briefly. So it's a network that I set up after kind of realising that there were all these women in Birmingham that I didn't know, and all the men knew each other, and I was like, how do we make all the women know each other? And then I met people in it, and it just kind of cemented the idea that yes, we need to have more women networking and getting to know each other. And I'm not even kidding, everyone that I know now is because of women in hospitality. I know Sarah, I know my group of friends, I know my housemate, I know my partner, like literally everyone that I know is through the network. And I was like, that blows my mind. And I thought about it the other day, I was like, that's insane. Like how did this tiny little network of like 100 people, and then I looked on the Instagram and I was like, oh, because it's like 1,000 people now, like how did that happen? And I'm not even really active on it, like I'm so bad at keeping it updated. So it's like a network. We are trying to run events while also running a restaurant. It's not going very well, but I feel like I say that every month. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try and do an event this week, and then the month gets away from me. I'm like, oh, okay, well, no events happen this month. I guess we'll just wait till like April.
We've done some people we've met and everything through that, like I've been able to do pop-ups with us true. And stuff like that, so that's nice.
And it's always going to be there. It's always going to be like, you know, available. You know, people still message me on it saying, do you know someone who can do this, someone who can do that? And I'm like, yes, I will always help you. So I kind of want, like, it's always like in the back of my mind, like, I want to get it back up and running. And it's just finding the time. But I think now that we've got Annabelle, who works a little bit more, I'll have the time to kind of work on that alongside it. That being said, if anyone wants to help me with women in hospitality who listens to the podcast, please send me an email. But yeah, like it's kind of events where you get to know other women working in industry, kind of talk about any issues that you might have. It's like a very safe space. Like, you know, I don't try and deal with, you know, like harassment or anything like that. If you want to talk about it, you can, and I can signpost you to the right place. But yeah, it's like mostly a very positive thing about kind of getting to know the really quite wonderful women that we have in Birmingham and promoting them and like shining a spotlight on it. And I think it's kind of getting there with that. Like, it's kind of changing the scene a little, like bit by bit, and getting there with kind of showing the people of Birmingham what the women of Birmingham have to offer, if that makes sense. Like, there's so many female chefs and we don't know about them, and that's kind of what women hospitality is for.
So I'll put the links to all of like the socials, probably the best place. Instagram, probably the best.
Not necessarily for women in hospitality. I think the website's better for women in hospitality. I'm better at keeping that updated.
I'll put all the links in there.
Yeah,
I'll put everything in the show notes and on the website and
sporadic.
On the newsletter.
Oh, sorry, I've been away for so long on the women in hospitality Instagram, which
I think people understand. You know, when you've got business
and the pandemic, but yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's anything we can help like that. Yeah, we're really behind that kind of thing. But
amazing. I feel like we've done all the talking. I feel like when we listen to like Rory and Farrah, it's at least like a little bit of talking from the other side, where we've just been like.
No, it's a dream. That is the less talking we do, the better.
It's a dream job. Sit here and just put the mics on and just sit back. Then.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we've been entertaining.
No, it's been brilliant. Honestly, we loved having you on. We just got Carl does a little thing at the end where just for a bit of fun, really, just leave on a good note.
Yeah,
amazing.
Just learn a bit more about it.
Oh, no. I'm saying it now. They're never quick fire.
Yeah, they never are.
He just does a few general questions about everything. So.
What's your favourite TV show?
You go first.
Oh, for rewatchability, Star Trek. And
I'm surprised that wasn't like your first answer.
I don't know. I also love Fringe, which is a sci-fi from
I used to watch
2005 to 2010.
You like
That's the
Merlin
most
as well?
depressing ending as well.
That was very sad. But the bit when it's sad because it's so great. Like the bit where he sat in the car in the desolate thing, that was great. And I'm really, really enjoying Ted Lasso at the moment. It is the most wholesome thing I've watched in a very long time.
Is that the one that Kerry told us to watch?
Yes.
Started watching. Have you watched Staffless Flats?
Oh, all of my friends have.
I've literally just started watching it. I'm on the second series. It's so funny.
Wow. Yeah, they all, and they forget that we haven't watched it and keep sending us memes, and we're like, no, don't get this.
It's like an all-time classic. It's still getting done, and anyone that's not watched it, I feel so bad that I have only just started watching it.
I haven't seen it.
But apparently, there was one character that really reminds my friends of one of our other friends.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's a good reason to watch it or bad. So I'll just only see that. So.
Wow. What's mine? Mine, I think for rewatchability is Chewing Gum, like Michaela Cole. I don't know. It's like set on a council estate in London, and it's just great. Like,
it's very funny.
Yeah, it's so funny, and it just like reminds me of growing up. Like, I didn't grow up on a council estate, but I went to a school where a lot of like the girls grew up on estates, and it just reminds me of like being at home.
Well, she's so great at just putting the tragic and the comedy all into one little space.
She's so good. I found the second one that she did, This May Destroy You, or like I May Destroy You. I found that like quite hard to watch, but like
that was.
Chewing Gum is absolutely great, and like anything that Phoebe Waller-Bridge has done, I just absolutely love. Like, I think her sense of humor is so dry and so incredible. But that's mine.
Favorite movie?
Stardust.
Really?
Stardust.
Because I feel like you can just, it does not matter how many times you watch it, it's just still great, and you forget all of the dimensions of it, and it's just brilliant. I mean, it's not like super like thought-provoking or anything, but it's just
I know what you mean,
just
though.
makes me like anytime it's on telly, I will just watch it. Whereas I feel like other films like I'll really love, but I have to be in the right mood to watch it. Whereas Stardust was like one of the DVDs of like one of the only DVDs I took to university with me.
Wow.
I think it was 2010, so DVDs were still relevant.
Mine is Anastasia. It's like a cartoon.
The Disney one.
The Disney one.
I was
It's
gonna
not.
say,
No,
is
it's
it
not.
Disney?
It's not Disney.
No, it's like
It's not.
that ilk.
It's
Oh, is it
like
not?
Disney, but it's not. Yeah.
I had the...
You had the dog one. There was one about dogs or something, or animals.
No, there was a CD, and it was like part audiobook and part the songs and
From
music
Anastasia?
from Anastasia. And for some reason, I did it with 2 copies of it.
Ah.
And it was really great.
I love that
I will
film.
dig through
So
the cupboard in my
Yes,
mum's house
the
and
best
Yeah,
Christmas
then
present
need
ever.
it.
and then you'll have to find a CD player to play it with.
Yeah, I can do that. But yeah, it's
I'll
just my
sell you
favourite
one.
film.
I've got one.
Oh, brilliant! Sounds good. Yeah, it's just a bit. I just love it. Like, I love the soundtrack. I love like the storyline. It's so easy to watch. It just reminds me of child. I feel like it's a common theme, but it reminds me of childhood. Like, yeah,
With the
I love it.
peppermint perfume.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
That's good.
Which favourite cookbook or one that you'd recommend?
Oh, I can go first on this one. Mine would be Food for Free. It's a foraging guide. I picked up in Waterstones like donkeys years ago, and it was like printed in the 80s and never really got changed or reprinted or anything.
I've got that one.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I tip water all over mine, so I do need a new copy. But like,
It's a sign
it's
of a good book.
so,
though.
yeah, it's so like informative, and it's got these like beautiful illustrations in it, and like it gives you all the different seasons of like what's available to forage. And I've just like I read it cover to cover and like learned so much from it.
Wrote that down. I'm gonna get that one.
You should. And if you don't already have it, the Flavour Thesaurus, like that one, it's got a really nice colour wheel on the front, and it tells you like flavour matching and like flavour profiles. That one's just really useful. Like it pairs stuff that you wouldn't ever think to pair, like mushrooms and apricot. Like you would never think to do it, but somehow it works. But forage is Food for Free for chefs. The other one I said, the Flavour Thesaurus.
I don't know which ones.
I think your ice cream one.
Yeah. There's a really great ice cream book. So if you're into ice cream and you want, or if you've got an ice cream maker, for instance,
Yeah.
and you want to get your use out of it this summer, I'd say there's an ice cream book. I can't remember the name of it, but it's by Kitty Travers. And I think, it's La Grotta Ices.
That's it, yeah.
And
It's really brightly coloured and
it's
beautiful.
the most luminous book. And she is now like a small ice cream producer in London, and she sells little pots of ice cream to a couple of like different like delis and cafes and stuff, and she does like market stalls and stuff, and she is so in depth and so enthusiastic about her recipes, and it's kind of like one of those gold books that you know that the recipe is gonna work.
Yeah. And like you
get
don't
some
realise
really
it as
great,
well, 'cause it looks really like silly, but
yeah,
it's great.
and you get some really great flavour combos that you wouldn't have thought of. The great thing is that if you think you need all of these stabilising ingredients that you've got written down from other kitchens and stuff like that, if you think you need these stabilisers and glucose or trimoline or things like that to stop your ice cream icing up or stuff like that, she does not use any of that. She uses fresh eggs. She uses just like bog standard sugar, caster sugar, demerara, whatever, and still comes out with amazing recipes.
And she does this great thing of like, I've noticed chefs starting to do it more, where they'll put a weird ingredient in and then be like, but if you can't get your hands on it, here's an alternative. And I love that.
Yeah, I've
And
seen that
then
popping up.
so there'll be like a mulberry sorbet recipe because it's got a story behind it. Like every summer they have like quite a short window, but then like loads of the chefs
They'll
will
go to the same one.
same place in Kent because it's like not actually that far away, but they all grow because there's lovely sunshine, and then they'll finally get a day off so that they can go and like harvest loads. And it's like one of those things that has like a wonderful, really short window of a year that you can have this great flavour. And she'll put very much like, for instance, she won't have a cherry ice cream on the thing because she says that any great cherries should not be wasted in ice cream because they'll lose their flavour. So buy these ones that are super sour, but because you're adding sugar and cream and stuff to them, it'll be great. And she'll do loads of like alternative ideas, like if you haven't got mulberries, you can also use blackberries in this time of year, or raspberries but add more sugar or things like that. Yeah, I just really like her weird and wonderful. Like you read the book because it's interesting as well, I find. And it's one of those ones you definitely read it and want to make every single flavour.
Yeah.
So
I want to make choc ices because of it.
Yeah.
I'm like obsessed with it. I'm like, Sarah, when are we making choc ices? When are we doing choc ices? Like literally obsessed.
Yeah, she's very much obsessed with choc ices. But yeah, no, ice cream just is my absolute favourite, and it makes me really happy.
You're talking to two people on board with that. All over
So-
ice cream. I've been looking up ice cream machines at the moment. I have no idea which one to buy. I
Should
know
get,
I want to buy one
the
that just does it
Ninja
all.
one.
The Ninja one. It's like if you ever heard
I've
of
seen that one come up. I didn't know where to get
Oh,
that.
oh,
one.
brilliant.
it's so good.
Is it?
Because
For,
it's
for the chefs out there, it's like a pack of Jet, but £199, not £1,200. It's so good.
yeah, it's great.
It's always out of
It's-
stock though.
If you've got an ice cream machine and you use it, but you're always struggling to find space for the bowl to freeze overnight, what's great about it is that actually you just make your custard or your sorbet base, and you put it in these little pots. They're about 600 grams.
600 mil.
600 ml pots, and then you freeze those overnight, and then you put it into it, and it's got a sorbet ice cream setting, whatever, and you put it into there, and it churns it down and then back
down.
up again. And then you can also, if your ice cream is too hard, you can put it in and it just respins in. It'll just go through once, and then you've got this lovely ice cream with the correct consistency. Like it's not really loose like when you first take it out of an ice cream like maker and stuff like that. So it's great, and the pots are only 600 ml, so it's like only a little bit bigger than like your Ben and Jerry's tub. So you can, and they come with lids, so you can
Like
put them in your freezer
rather
like
than the whole
you would
bowl.
do with your normal food shop.
And just one more. What's your favourite food city in the world? Obviously,
city?
aside from Birmingham.
Ooh, I think Leeds. Like I don't really do city breaks that often, but like we went to Leeds recently and everything we ate was great. Like there was just so many options and it was affordable, and like we went to this great restaurant called Fint that is like sort of Scandi and kind of did brunch in the daytime and dinner in the evening.
You say in the UK or in the world?
Anywhere you want, you pick.
I don't know. Because I was older and I knew where to look for. We had some really amazing food when we went to Barcelona,
Oh yeah, Barcelona's good.
which is really great. But then when I was like 18, I went to Lyon, and like I really want to go back, like when I'm not backpacking and have no money.
Yeah,
Eat
to
some
actually
more
eat.
food. But just because like I think the sort of like the way of life, like for people living there, like there's so much more, like it's much more casual. Like everyone's just eating food because it's part of like it's more of like your just what people do, which I think the UK is catching up on now. But and also like there's just like an incredible bakeries in both of those places that are just like base level brilliant and then get better, whereas I think with us, we've got like Greg's.
We've got a long way to catch up to the
We do.
European sort of
Yeah,
bakery level.
bakery.
Like the Copenhagen ones are so good.
I went to Lille on it's a strange place for a stag do, but we went to Lille on a stag do, and the bakeries were just like the
Yeah.
normal priced ones.
Yeah,
Absolutely phenomenal.
yeah.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah, and
I love a French bakery.
yeah, and in Barcelona, like as long you get like croissants and pain au chocolat and there was always apple flavored things, and which I felt like that's over here if you go to like a proper bakery, that'll be like the special, but then next week there won't be apple, there'll be something else, and it's just like as someone who will always pick the apple option.
Did you ever
I'm
have
happy
the
with that.
brioche from Early Birds, the custard?
Custard.
You talk about
Oh
that quite
my
frequently,
God.
actually.
I would, if
It's off the menu now. But
If
it was
that's
for
on, I
ages.
don't even look at anything else.
Oh, it's
I
so
love the
good.
Queen of Man from there. They've done a Biscoff one recently, but I really like the apple one. But they don't do that one
the
anymore.
because they've done both Bramley apple and Granny Smith
Granny Smith, yeah.
with the vanilla custard. But I'd say a close second is the almond custard with the cherry jam.
I love it. I love all cherry.
Have you been Levanon?
Yeah, it's like just around the corner from where I live in King's Heath, and yeah, I go more often now. It's just like
It's just a queue that kills it there. The queue's
Oh,
massive
see-
on a Saturday.
you want to work in hospitality and you want to not work on a Wednesday because that's when I go to all of these great places, never a queue.
Yeah, when you go to Early Bird and there's actually like a full place, you're like, what?
Yeah,
What's going on? It's not Saturday.
yeah. I'm like,
What?
why are you full on a Wednesday? This is my time to be here.
No, yeah, no, I
Yeah, I really
started
like
going to Levan and Cherry like during lockdown when he was like operating out of his kitchen window.
I remember that.
So that was good. Yeah,
really
no, he yeah, I like the bread because always like there's always one with like 1 million seeds in.
Yeah,
And I love that.
I like that he offers. I'm sure he does, but he does like sourdough, but also not sourdough baguettes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I prefer a non-sourdough baguette. I'm like a bit basic in all of my food taste. Like, I'm just like not bothered by a sourdough one. Like, I'm like, give me the plain
Sometimes they're
one.
just too many like.
Yeah, too much holes. Like, you can't get enough mustard and ham on it. So, like, what's the point? So,
Me and Chloe love a hamburger.
we got mildly obsessed to like hamburgers and McCoys.
Awesome. Yeah, we could. I feel like we could stay and chat for ages.
I need to have my dinner.
Yeah, we're gonna get kicked out of here in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah,
so
it's
much
been
for
great being
coming
on here. Thanks
Yeah,
for having
great.
us.
Loved it.
Good. Yeah, we've enjoyed doing it.